Hello, thank you. If you would have told me that I'd be here 5 years ago, it's totally impossible.
You should hear the way Esther tells the story.
I totally agree with everything that you teach. And it's really changing my life. And I don't know if this is a question or a comment. I just don't get the whole channeling thing. I just don't get it. I'm like, everything is tremendous teaching. But when it comes to the channeling, I'm like, I get lost.
Well, actually, it's a good thing that you don't, in this sense. We don't want it to be something so unusual either, because the fact is, everyone who you see around you is an extension of source energy. And everyone has access to this broader knowing. In fact, through the years, as our way of explaining who we are and who you are and how it all blends together has evolved, this analogy that we offer about this vortex, this vibrational place isn't even the right word, vibrational state of being, where if you tend to your vibration, then you enter the vortex and you become one with what's there. That's the best definition of channeling that anyone could ever give. A basketball player who learns his skill, who gets tuned in to the rhythm of who he really is, often describes being in the zone. And it's not so different from being in the vortex. In fact, some of his extraordinary abilities, when he's really tuned in like that, of being able to recognize his time and space, of being able to judge the distance from where he is and the trajectory of the ball that he is throwing. In other words, all of that is because he is using more of his resources. Scientists have long said that humans use but a small percentage of their mental capacity, even as they are probing brains and putting contraptions on them to measure activity. And so you're really accurate when you acknowledge that everyone, the beasts of your planet, are all doing it all of the time. In other words, they have not given up their awareness of their relationship with their source energy in order to please others. The domesticated ones tend to do it more, but for the most part, the beasts of your planet are tuned to that frequency. It's why you can see a flock of birds flying in formation in perfect rhythm with one another. It's because they are operating out of the one mind to which they are all vibrationally in sync. And so Jerry and Esther have never liked the word channeling because it means all kinds of things that they are not doing. We offer blocks of thought. Esther receives the blocks of thought at an unconscious level and then finds the physical word equivalent. But she could not do that if she were not in the vibrational vicinity of that which we are.
Where is Esther right now? Where is Esther?
Esther describes her experience as knowing what Abraham knows. In other words, because of this environment, because of the expectation for the most part of those who are participating, because of the focus of your asking, you are summoning the energy collectively and individually in a stronger way than you ordinarily would. So it's queued up to be received. As Esther puts herself in a place of no distraction and complete allowing, her vibration raises so that she can hear and express the frequency. Sometimes people who are having an experience similar to what Esther is doing describe themselves as not being there, as going somewhere else, as being unconscious. Esther is not unconscious. She is aware of the words as they are being spoken. She has no sense of what we're going to say before we say it. There's no pre-planning. There are no notes. There is no script. It's all live, impromptu, in the moment, in response to what is being asked. Esther has some awareness following the seminar these days of what's been said, and always when she listens back to a recording, she recognizes it. In fact, sometimes when she puts her earphones on and listens back to the recording after the fact, because Jerry and Esther do the editing for the various products that are offered, Esther will tune right back into the frequency and know what's going to be said again right before it's said. In other words, she's tuning into the energy. So Jerry and Esther get letters. There are many people who do not accept that Esther is receiving from another point of view. Jerry perhaps knows it better than any because he knows what Esther's consciousness is, what her grasp of things is, what her spread of knowledge is. He knows the sequence of her words and the usage of her words. He's always impressed that Abraham utilizes Esther's vocabulary in a fuller way than Esther ever uses her vocabulary. In other words, there are all kinds of differences. If a physician were to wire Esther, they would find that everything about her physical apparatus is in sort of hyper mode. Her heart and breathing rhythm are in a much more relaxed mode than her mental, which is really unusual because usually they go together. In other words, she is in a state of allowing, but a state of heightened mental activity, which is a sort of anomaly for physicians to see things like that. To be in a state of relaxation so much usually doesn't bring this much mental activity. But you see, it's not Esther's mental activity. It's our mental activity that she is expressing for us. So it really is not important to us or to Esther or to Jerry whether you are accepting this as a reality of an experience. They do want people to benefit from the information that Esther is translating. From our point of view, we found Esther to be a supreme translator because she did not have opinions. She was not decided on all kinds of things. She is becoming more decided as she listens to us more and as she applies the things that she is learning from us to the details of her life. She is in a mental way coming to hold this knowledge. But still, there are always new things that are erupting in every gathering as a result of what those like you bring to the forum.
Wow.